Hello and welcome everybody. And today I'm really pleased to be introducing Joanne Mallon. She's an author, podcaster, and one of the most experienced media career coaches, having trained as a coach in, I think it was 2001, after a very successful career as a TV producer, producing shows such as GMTV and This Morning. She's written also a number of books, including Finding Your Why, and her very popular series, Changing Your Life in 5 Minutes a Day, which is really interesting. Her first book came out around lockdown, which was How to Find Joy. The next one was Change Your Life. And the one that's most recently coming out, and as we're broadcasting today, comes out tomorrow, is called To Find Calm in 5 Minutes a Day. So welcome, Joanne.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
So it's very interesting. Actually, in fact, I feel quite nervous talking to you that you coach people in careers, and here I'm going gibber. It's interesting that you transition from a career in TV to actually coaching people.
Yeah, I sort of went down a bit of a cul-de-sac in terms of the television that I was working in. I was working a lot in GMTV This Morning, which of course is still on. And I think I went into TV thinking I would tell great stories and make real kind of life-changing documentaries. And I just ended up with an awful lot of chat shows and daily live programs, which are fine in and of themselves. And I do think they've got a value in terms of just interpreting what's going on in the world and telling people's stories. But live TV's really highly stressful. You never quite feel that it's never 100% what it could be. It's just whatever you can get together on the day, and it is a bit of a sausage factory in terms of you're just creating more and more content every single day. And I kind of got to the point where it just wasn't really satisfying to me. I felt like I'm doing stuff that is reaching millions of people, but actually what I'd like to do is work with a smaller number of people but make a meaningful difference in their lives. I didn't feel like anything I was doing was changing anybody's life for the better. I think one of the last things I worked on GMTV was a story about a ferret that could play snooker. And I was remember thinking about this, getting a phone call from the chief correspondent who I think he'd annoyed one of the bosses, so he got sent out in this story, and he was furious because he was a guy with a tie who'd been to an Oxbridge college and liked reporting on the serious news stories. He did not like having to do the ferret that can play snooker. And I remember him ringing me up, and the story was meant to go live to this ferret on the snooker table, and he's going, it won't play snooker. The ferret won't. The ferret's fallen asleep. The ferret's not going to. And I'm like, well, we'll have to cancel it then. We can't just cut to a ferret. And afterwards, I'm thinking, what is this ridiculous conversation that I'm having with somebody? Is this really how I want to live my life? Is what I want to be doing? And round about that time, coaching was starting to become a thing in the UK. It was getting an awful lot of media coverage. It was always in the newspapers and magazines and stuff, just because it was new and it was different. It was kind of less about career coaching, more about life coaching at the time. And I just felt really drawn towards it. I thought, God, this is something that's very interesting to me. And then sadly my grandfather passed away, and I got left a little bit of money, and I thought, well, this money has arrived in my life. I feel like I should do something significant with it. So I took it and then paid for a coaching course, and then over time started coaching anybody really. When you start off in coaching, I think you have to kind of find who do you work best with, and because you're not the right. Different coaches work for different people. And I found that it was people who worked in media. So TV people, journalists, broadcasters, people from the world that I'd really come from, they were the ones who wanted to come to me for coaching. So over time, that's kind of the niche that I've developed. And so I do a lot of career coaching for people who work in media, because I think they know that I know their world, I speak their kind of language. And then, as you mentioned, kind of branching off from that, I've got into writing these books, which are, I guess, well-being, more on the life coaching side of things, just helping people improve their well-being easily. A big thing for me is small things that you can do that make a big difference. And this is why I do, as you mentioned, my podcast, which is called 5 Minutes to Change Your Life, because it's unusual in that it's only 5 minutes long. And the idea is that you give people one thing that if you do it will make a big difference. And with the books, including Find Calm, which is out this week, there's lots and lots of ideas in there. There's not an awful lot of reading. It's not a kind of big thick book that you have to kind of plow through for ages. You could open it up at any page and you'll find just something small and easy that you could do today that will make a big difference in your life going forward.
I mean, I actually have a copy of the book here.
Me too.
And see that, and and I've picked out a couple of pages that I'd like to go through. Perhaps we can sort of give people examples. But I was just wondering, because when we first spoke, I was very interested, possibly because of my age, to hear that you were brought up in Belfast during what was called the Troubles of the
Yes.
time. And I found that interesting because it was something that we were brought up with, and it was just sort of going on in the background. And you look back and you think, oh my goodness. And having spoken to you, it just really kind of resonated home what it meant. And I just wondered if having that background is why you found trying to support people, with anxiety and, looking at how to positively change their life came from that type of background.
Yes, I mean, I think that's fair to say. There probably is a connection there. I mean, if you've seen the Kenneth Branagh film Belfast, so spoiler, where that film ends is just when the Troubles are kicking off and he and his family move away. That's kind of round about where I was born, right at that time when it was all kicking off. So it was already a thing, as I was growing up. And so it was just absolutely normal, to be walking to school and there'd be armed soldiers on patrol with guns walking past you. I was just thinking this morning about, there's one time I was walking through Belfast and I came across a street where the soldiers were kind of cordoning off an area because there'd just been a bomb in a van. And I saw this white van, kind of the shape of a white van, but the sides were blown out like a balloon, so that there'd been a bomb in the back of this van. And me, because I'm a curious kind of person, I thought, that looks interesting. And I walked towards it. I remember walking up to this van and taking a good look and taking in the fact that the sides of it were puffed out like a balloon. And now I think, what an idiot. There's a bomb there. What do? You don't run away. You go towards it because it's so normalized. So absolutely normalized that even though you were living in a highly stressed state, and of course we know now that chronic stress, ongoing stress that it just goes on for months and months and years, is actually quite damaging to your health. But we were all living in that kind of situation and just kind of treating it like it was every day because you had to, because you had to get on with your life. What else could you do? I always remember the scene at the start of Dairy Girls, Dairy Girls, where there's a bit where the girls are going to school and the soldiers in armed patrol get on the school bus and they're walking up and down the bus with their like full soldier gear and their guns and everything. And one of the Dairy Girls just yawned like that because it's the morning, it's boring. And it was kind of almost boring to us. It was just literally, that was what everyday life consisted of. But of course, you look back on that now with absolute horror. How was that your normality? I know, anybody from my generation who remembers what it was like and sees, Belfast is an absolutely thriving place now. People go there for mini breaks. It's astonishing. Whereas, I can remember a time when Belfast city centre was just not a place you went into after dark. You just absolutely did not. So yeah, I do think that it's a thing that helps me now in later life be calmer, is the fact that I've kind of, I've been through a lot of fire in early life. I really wouldn't wish that on anybody as a way to kind of put things in perspective and become calmer later. But it does mean that I have an appreciation for what it's like to live with stress. And I feel now, especially having done this book, is that stress is an everyday thing for absolutely everybody. I know you help people a lot with their health condition. I don't think there's a person walking the earth that doesn't have something stressful happening to them today. It just is an everyday thing. And even if you're having a very chill day and everything's going absolutely fine today, there's still whatever has happened to you previously in life that you're still carrying within you. And so I really feel that because stress is present and central in our lives today, that dealing with that and helping ourselves to become calmer, that deserves to be central as well. But of course, we don't do that, do we? We treat looking after our well-being as like a side hustle, or it's like it's something extra, like it's dessert, it's something you'll get to when you got time. I feel like because the stress is already here, then the helping ourselves to deal with it and become calmer needs to be here as well. Because don't forget that being calm is an active state. It's not about being passive and just, having a wee snooze. I often think of it as being at peace. I think being calm, being at peace, they're the same things really. But you look all around the world, and you look at Northern Ireland, where I come from, and you can see that it's hard to be at peace. It's a hard thing to achieve, and once you do achieve it, it's quite fragile and difficult. And this is why we just all need to do something to help ourselves become calmer. And I hope what I've shown people in the book is that the things that you can do to help yourself become calmer actually aren't that difficult and don't have to take a lot of time, and can be quite simple. Like, I mean, one thing that springs to mind is magnesium. Okay, magnesium, the calming mineral, also known as nature's tranquilizer. I take a magnesium tablet every morning. I've got it here on my desk from Boots. There's a calcium and magnesium. I know some people take it at night. It's supposed to be quite good for menopause if you're not sleeping very well. But you get magnesium in bananas, seeds, nuts, dark chocolate, a lot of pretty obvious things. So if you were to do something like have a banana every day, have a magnesium tablet every day, that would help your body to physically feel calmer. And it's not a difficult thing to do.
And I think also quite often, two things that sort of spring to mind from what you've just said is, one, what's one person's stress isn't somebody else's. And and it's very easy to be judgmental on someone else's stress when, we're all affected differently by it. And so some people can take, it's the expression of what, the straw that broke the camel's back, isn't it, really? And I think the other bit that you said, which is it hadn't crossed my mind, but actually being calm is an actual state in itself. It's not neutral, it's actual something. And I'm sure when you suddenly realize, you look around and think, oh, I'm quite happy. You think, because it's not often we do that. And that allows you to understand what that feeling is. So like being calm, it's good to recognize when you are feeling calm, to understand this is what calm feels like, as opposed to just ignoring it.
Absolutely. And there's a big difference between feeling inner calm and appearing calm. I think we often assume that other people are much calmer than we are because they maybe appear to be so. But I mean, how many of us are like the swan that is gliding along on the surface, but under the surface is paddling like the clappers just to keep afloat? I think that's very, very common. Often we can assume that someone's calm because it often comes from like things like physical stillness. If somebody's still and and they don't show any obvious signs that they're stressed, that doesn't mean to say that they're not stressed. I think we so often we compare our insides with somebody else's outsides, and they're just not the same thing. And I don't think that many people are intrinsically calm all the time. I think it's one of those things, a bit like confidence or self-esteem, that goes up and down depending on what else is happening in your life. And also, exactly as you said, how we experience stress is maybe not necessarily about what is happening in that moment, but it's about everything else that's going on in our life. But equally, I think if you were to do something to alleviate your stress, you can do that separate to the actual stress itself. So for example, one of the things I talk about in the book is things with repetitive movement. Okay, so I'm talking about things like sewing, baking, cooking, chopping vegetables, doing Lego is a nice one, doing jigsaws, doing puzzles, things like that. That kind of repetitive movement puts the brain into a relaxed meditative state. That's why something like doing a jigsaw is just very, very relaxing. So if you're a person whose life is generally quite stressful, let's say you're experiencing chronic stress, maybe you've got a health condition yourself, or you're caring for somebody else with a health condition, an evening spent doing some kind of repetitive movement task, doing a jigsaw, doing some sewing, coloring in, whatever, will then fuel you so that you can go then and cope with the rest of the stress in your life.
One of them, so referring to your book, one of the things that just made me chuckle, actually, because it's so very true, is one of the things, because how the book, I like the way how you split the book between, one page has a quote, and then you've got your sort of, not answer to it, but some understanding behind it. And one of them was, almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you. And, it's so true, and I'm sure that most of us will think about computers and printers and just thinking, you do find quite often it's nothing other than just turning it off and it works again after a few minutes. And I think that's so true with ourselves without us recognizing it.
It's just literally stopping, pausing. I think if you can like engage in nature in some way, maybe step outside or even look outside, just look up at the sky, and it doesn't have to be for a long time, 10 seconds, 30 seconds of you stepping away from a stressful situation will really help you deal with whatever else you've got to deal with in your life. It's so true. And I know that sometimes talking about breathing and deep breathing, I think probably people are sick of hearing that that's a good thing, but it is a good thing. It's just really, really useful to go and sit quietly and just deeply breathe in, breathe out again. I saw a nice one on YouTube the other day where this woman was doing a breathing technique where it was hold up your hand and get your finger and go around. I won't do it now, but maybe this is one that people can take away with them, is breathe in up to the top tip of your finger, pause, breathe out, and go all the way around your hand and then back again. That takes 30 seconds, maybe a minute. And if you're to do that, you will completely reset your system and then be much better able to deal with whatever else you have to deal with. Because don't forget that this kind of self-care isn't just about self-care, and it isn't self-indulgent in any way. Everyone who depends on you, everyone who loves you, everyone that you have to take care of, your friends, your family, your loved ones, your pets, they benefit if you're working from a stronger, calmer place. So this is not just about doing stuff for yourself. It's actually doing something for everyone around you.
And I think, the one that you just showed then, I think, where you're thinking about your breathing. I personally find anything that can sort of switch my brain off for a second from thinking about what's going round and round, that's really what it's doing. It's stopping, it's interrupting, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. That it's really mindfulness what we're talking about now. One thing that I like to do is look out the window into my garden, or if I'm at a park or somewhere, and count the number of shades of green. It's amazing how many shades of green there are in the world. And all that is doing is, as you said, it's just stilling the mind and making it focus on one particular thing. So I'll just kind of sit and do that. Or, this is the kind of mindfulness techniques are good because you can incorporate them into what you're already doing. So mindfulness is all about being in the moment and only that moment. So you're not thinking about what came before, what's coming next. You're not looking at your phone. You're not listening out for something else happening in the house. So let's say if you're having a cup of coffee or you're eating your breakfast, your lunch, you only focus on that. Okay, you just go away and that is the only thing. And you're thinking about your senses. So what can you taste? What can you touch? What can you smell? but you're only focused on that one thing. And I think that's a good technique to bring to your life, because again, it kind of just switches you off for those few seconds, and then you're more strengthened to go into the rest of your life.
It's funny, isn't it? I've got going around in my head because I'm looking out of the window, looking at the greens, and I'm thinking, actually, that might stress me out, because I'd start counting, remember, and then think, forgotten what number I'd got to, and I'd need to go back. So it's funny, what works for one person may not work for the other. The other one that I thought was really good, and I think this will resonate with a lot of our members who have chronic conditions. The ordinary acts we practice every day at home are of more importance to the soul than their simplicity might suggest. And I think particularly when you are, you're not well, all you want to do is go back to having a normal life. You just want to go back, just want to go to the supermarket to do my boring shop. You want to do the boring things.
Absolutely, because there's a certain simplicity in that, and I think there's an element there of just valuing yourself and recognizing that if something brings you joy, no matter what it is, then it deserves a place in your life. Okay, you don't have to justify it any further than that. It doesn't have to be some kind of huge life-enhancing learning experience. If something makes you happy and joyful, as I said before, everyone in your life is going to benefit from you being more happy and joyful. And so I think we have to see these things as just necessary parts of every day, but especially when you know that your life has got more challenges to it than most people. When life's already throwing stuff at you, you've got to find ways to recharge, otherwise your battery is going to run flat at some point. But it can be something simple, like just taking a moment out, or just thinking about what do I enjoy. I think I talk about this in the Joy book. I encourage people to just make a list of the things that make you happy, whether it's music that you like, food you like, people you like talking to, whatever, and just make a point of including those things in your life every day as much as you can. Make a plan. There was some studies in recent years that anticipating something can almost be give us more benefits than doing it. You know how Christmas Eve is often a lot more fun than Christmas Day itself.
Yeah.
So once you have something that you're looking forward to, that will lift you for the whole time up until you do whatever it is. So yeah, I would really encourage people to see that this is a necessary part of self-care. It's not an optional treat. Like I said at the start, it's not like it's dessert. It's a necessary part of taking care of yourself, so that you'll be able to deal with the challenges that life has given you.
And I liked how you termed it. It's make yourself central. And not central in the sense of being self-obsessed, self-absorbent, or making, but it, and not a selfish way, but it actually, by helping yourself, as you said previously, you help everybody else.
Absolutely. It's about valuing yourself, isn't it? Which I get then also relates to self-esteem. It's treating yourself as a valuable, important person. And none of us exists entirely independently. There will be people who rely on you and need you to be as physically and mentally well as you can be, to just support them too. So everything you do for yourself, you also do for everyone around you that relies on you.
Well, and I can't stress, that's not the right word to use, is it? Is how much I've enjoyed just dipping into this book. You can either read it cover to cover, or it's a dip in and dip out. And actually, I think it's probably better to dip in and dip out, because you can take one point and look at it from, all manners of ways, opposed to just reading it all and just saying, oh yeah, I understand that, I know that. That's not helping you. I think taking one point and really looking at it from different angles and how it resonates with yourself can really help.
Yeah, I mean, the structure of the book, like the previous book about joy, is across a day in your life. So it starts off with things you can do in the morning, then things you can do in the daytime, then the evening, and then things that will make a big difference in the future. But what I find, what people have told me that read my books, is that they do exactly as you say. They kind of open it like a lucky dip, and say, okay, this is going to be my thing for today. There are, I think, 66 different tips within the book, and like you said, there's no one thing that will suit everybody, but I hope that there's enough variety in there that there'll be something that will speak to you, because really, that, you know, the most important thing is that you take some action, that you do something. I mean, it's all very well if you have to read the book cover to cover and then just put it away. It probably wouldn't make that much difference in your life. But what I'd love to see people doing is just commit to one small thing, just one thing that is easy for you, and do that, and just see how you get on with it. You know, but just play with it for a week or two. Maybe there'll be something I've suggested and you can find a version of that that works for you. You know, I hope there's enough in there that there'll be something for everyone, but the main thing is to do something. But this is why I've kind of added in things that work within your life already and don't have to be a whole big extra chore. We've already got a long enough to-do list, haven't we? But I mean, there could be something like for example, music has such a big influence on everybody's mood, and I know there have been studies that have found classical music lowers the blood pressure. Maybe you just go about your regular day, but you play some music that you love. You know, you play something that reminds you of a happier time in your life. Just have it going in the background. That's not really an extra chore, an extra thing to do, but it will make a big difference to your mood. I've been, the last couple of days, I've had kind of the startings of a cold coming on. So I wake up in the morning thinking, no, I don't have time for a cold today. So I've been playing my most kind of wakey up kind of music to get me going. Obviously, if you're not a person who's that into music, that won't make any difference to you. But I think the key point is that if you enjoy it, if you love it, if it makes you feel fulfilled and happy, then it is justified in being a central part of your life.
That's very good justification. So thank you very much for your time today. It's been a real pleasure, Joanne.
Lovely to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you.